Looking at this Cowboys media discussion, there's some real tension brewing with Trevon Diggs and his situation right now. Brian Schottenheimer came out with some pretty interesting comments about Diggs and whether he's actually ready to play. When you listen to what Schottenheimer isn't saying, it tells you everything you need to know. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the America's team. So Schottenheimer actually mentioned that Diggs is still in his ramp-up period, says he feels healthy and wants to play, but then comes the kicker. They have to do what's best for not just him, but the whole football team. Schottenheimer went on about how when you miss time, there's a ramp-up period for your body and your mind, figuring out the defense, new faces in the huddle. Then he said he loves Diggs as a player, but ultimately he's got to show them he's ready to do everything the right way. That last part is what really stands out. Do everything the right way. Pull your head out, show up on time, go through individual drills at the right tempo, show up to rehab on time. Whatever it means, just do it. Or you can sit there and watch them play. The really telling part was when Diggs himself said that different coaches have different rules, and it's a growing relationship with Schottenheimer. That doesn't sound super awesome, right? When Schottenheimer was asked if Diggs was having a harder time adjusting to his style than other guys, he basically said, yeah, that's probably fair. There are little tidbits showing there's some friction between them. Here's what's really going on. Diggs has probably been babied everywhere he's gone because of his talent. He's been allowed to do whatever he wanted to do, whether that was at Alabama or when he got to Dallas. His talent always superseded everything else. But now things aren't going right, and those issues that have been happening behind the scenes are getting a lot harder to deal with. The truth is, we're probably seeing the end of Trevon Diggs as a Cowboy. These final 4 games, unless they make the playoffs, this is it. They're not going to let him put on good tape until he shows them he's ready to do it their way. The previous regime let him get away with stuff that other people wouldn't get away with. It's like having different teachers with different rules. What might be a problem in one classroom isn't a problem in another. It's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And right now, the standard has changed. As the saying goes, as long as your talent outweighs your problems, people will deal with you. But when your talent doesn't do it anymore, they don't want the problems. Diggs isn't an all-pro anymore. They'll be okay without him. That's hard for a player to hear when he's never heard it, because his talent has always allowed him certain privileges, certain rights, certain second chances. He was tight with Micah Parsons, and Parsons gets a good rope wherever he is right now. They were running mates. But here's the thing, if 2 of us are the same, 1 of us is not needed. We're at that point where Diggs is getting the talk that every player eventually gets when they're too good for the rules. Eventually, every player has to fall in line. When your ability gets to a certain point, it's like, all right, we're not putting up with it anymore. You could do this when you were doing what you were doing on Sundays, but you're not doing those same things anymore. This happens in every business. Look at Chris Paul last week with the Warriors. He tried to call off defensive switches, and the coach shut that down real quick. At 40 years old, you're not that good to be a pain in the neck. The best Cowboys example in the last 10 years is probably Dez Bryant. There were a lot of little things they put up with until they reached a point where he wasn't playing like before, and that stuff got more annoying. They gave him 1 more season and said, thank you for your service. As for whether Diggs plays again this year, opinions are split. Some think no way. Others think if Philadelphia starts slipping and there are corner problems, we might see him. There could be injuries, and hey, players get extra checks in the playoffs, so teammates might push for him to come back. They just came out of 3 games in 11 days, and they're still saying he needs to sit. We're getting to that point where you have to decide. Do you want to carry something personal, or do you want to try to win some games? It might also just be about emphasizing the standard, especially in year 1, so everyone understands this is how things are going to be moving forward. Now let's talk about George Pickens. He had his worst game of the year against Detroit on Thursday. Nobody plays 17 perfect games. It happens. Richard Sherman criticized him, Pickens took to social media, then Mark Schlereth came on the radio saying he wouldn't pay Pickens, using the Detroit game as his reason. But Schlereth is just an angry old dude, and Pickens has had way too many good games this year to let one bad performance define him. Looking at that Detroit game, there were definitely some effort issues.
The deep shot right before the 2-minute warning, the interception where the slant bounced off his chest, the comeback route that was deflected, there were things you could point to. But hasn't he earned the benefit of the doubt at this point? The return on investment from what they expected when he arrived versus what they've gotten has been incredible. One game shouldn't completely flip the narrative to you can't pay him. If he had 500 yards this year with no touchdowns, then yeah, one bad game would be different. But that's not the case. As long as this doesn't repeat itself, it's water under the bridge. Schottenheimer had a conversation with him over the weekend, probably told him these certain things can't happen here. That's not the standard. Let's make sure they're improved this week. That's what you do. You show them the cut-ups, you ask if this is really them, you remind them they're first-team All-Pro right now, and that's worth a lot of money. It's interesting who we choose to condemn and who we choose to forgive. CeeDee Lamb had terrible games too, like Game 1 and the Philadelphia game. His body language was an issue. But we're not talking about getting rid of CD. With Pickens, the very first snap of the game against Detroit on a handoff, Dak ran faster handing the ball off than Pickens did off the line of scrimmage. That shows an issue right there. Pickens is like the NFL version of Manny Ramirez, ridiculously naturally talented, either unstoppable or sometimes looks uninterested, and it can change from play to play. But you pay Manny Ramirez every day of the week because he's that good, and you deal with the stuff that comes with it. Same with Pickens. You pay him because he's good enough that you sign up for performances like the Raiders game, the Eagles game, the Washington game. The money conversation might be different. Maybe it's the difference between 3 and 4 years, between 30 and 35 million. But the concept of not paying him at all, of trading him somewhere else? No. In a 17-game season, you're not going to have 17 great games. It happens. The question is, does it happen again? That's what we'll find out. If we're going to talk about Pickens like that, we also need to talk about Jake Ferguson, who had 0 fumbles in his first 35 career games, but now has fumbles in back-to-back weeks. We need to talk about Cavonte Turpin, who had 2 fair catch penalties in 18 days when the entire NFL had only 1 in the 2,200 days before that. They gave up 261 yards on kickoffs against Detroit, 4th most in the last decade. Nathan Thomas gave up 11 pressures. There were a whole lot of issues that night. The offensive line is a real concern moving forward. Tyler Guyton never looked so good until you saw Nathan Thomas give up those 11 pressures. Terrence Steele is the starting right tackle. With 4 games left, are the tackles going to hold them back? When you look at what Brian Flores is going to throw at this offensive line from a blitz package standpoint against Minnesota, these boys better be ready. Guyton wasn't on the practice field to start the week, so it looks like Thomas might go again. The tackles have been really bad, making you wonder if they need to take a tackle early in the draft again. That's a tough reality. Guyton looked like he might not make it early in his career, but he didn't hang his head. He fought through it and stayed encouraged, and that's why he's been able to come out the other side and play okay. The one good thing is this has been Dak's best season when it comes to feeling the rush and making little adjustments. He's at that veteran point where it's just a step here, a shoulder shift there, and he knows how to avoid the rush and make throws. A quarterback can help hide some warts, and hopefully Dak is playing at a level where the offensive line issues won't be as big of a problem. But looking ahead at Minnesota, and then a home game against the Chargers, and then road games at Washington on Christmas night and against the Giants to end the season, they've got to be better. You just can't afford to lose these kind of games, especially after what happened with Arizona. That Arizona loss is the one that's really cost them, not Carolina or Chicago. Arizona hasn't won since they came to Dallas and won that game, and they might be looking for a new head coach after the season. That's the game that hurts the most.